Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihi al-amin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in wa ba'd. So inshallah today we will start with Surah Al-Baqarah, and we'll do 5 ayahs every day like I mentioned. And the vocabulary will just be a word-to-word memorization type of deal. The second part of the class will be devoted to grammar. Pretty much one lesson every day from this book. The book's name is Quranic Language Made Easy. You can buy it at the IFS bookstore, the Islamic Foundation bookstore, and we'll just do 1 or 2 lessons a day from here, inshallah. So it's in black. The current version is in black, but it makes no difference if you have blue or black. It just page numbers are different basically. So that's not. So inshallah, let's start with the first ayah. So this is the first ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah, and it's not very assuming. It's just 3 letters long, and it's interesting that the first ayah you don't know what the meaning is. That's how you're going to start your study of Arabic. It's alif lam mim. The tajweed, at least we know the tajweed of this. The alif is 1 count letter. Lam and mim are both mad of 6 counts. So at least we know how to pronounce it right. But the meaning wise, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the meaning. Okay? And one thing though that I want to mention based on just this, has nothing to do with this ayah. But a lot of times I'm going to be writing words without anything on them. Right? Anything on them meaning this, 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 this. And eventually we want to develop a sense of understanding of the word, just a visual understanding, such that even if I don't write these markings, we should be able to read the word slightly. I won't do that in the beginning of the class obviously, but we have to, once we know more and more grammar, we have to know that this word does not exist. So this can't be ulum. Okay? Now obviously alif lam mim is so unique that people know what it is, and etc. But for a general word, eventually we want to get to the point where we don't have to know what's on the word. That also gives you a sense that you actually know what you're doing in Arabic. So you're actually learning something. That's kind of a marker. If you can read text without the letters, even if your vocabulary is not very good, right? You learned a lot of vocabulary, you forgot it, you learned vocabulary, you forgot it. But you've been familiar with the language. If you want to know whether or not you were ever familiar with the language, look at an Arabic text without any fatha, dhamma, kasra, and see if you can understand what it means. If you can understand if you can read what it's saying, first of all, that means you're familiar at least partially with the Arabic language. So again, that's alif lam mim. Okay. So the next ayah is as follows. And the first week I'm going to put more emphasis on going through each word. Eventually, starting from next week actually, I would encourage you to go over the words at home, word by word, either using there's a book from Al-Huda Institute that has a word-to-word. If you're very tech-savvy, you don't need this book. I mean, this book is one of the few print versions of word-to-word, word-to-word. But there are a lot of online resources that have the same thing. So if you're used to using your phone or the computer, you can go to Quran Corpus, and you can just type in the ayah number, and it'll go exact word for word the meaning. So if you look over that before you come to class, it'll make it much easier to remember. You'll have 1 repetition in already, and you'll be able to see that, and it'll just become more familiar. Then I can focus on some of the more difficult words, or some of the words that have more context, etc. Okay? So the first word here is dhalika. Dhalika is a relatively small word. If you just look at overall the ayah, you can see from all these words, dhalika is 1 small word. It means that. And before the grammar lesson, I don't want you to impose you with all kinds of terminology about this and that. So right now I'm just going to say it means that. Dhalika means that. So if you want to say the word dhalika, 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 it means that. In today's grammar lesson, we will start learning how to characterize each and every word. But for now, it's dhalika. Al-kitabu. Al-kitabu means the book. And perhaps many of you are already familiar with this word. It's one of the prototypical Arabic words. The first word you know in Arabic after Allah Muhammad is Al-Kitab. So Al-Kitab means the book. Okay? Why is it the book? It's because of these 2 letters right here. Al. Al-Kitab. Okay? If it was without alif lam, it would have been book. The translation would have been book. ذَلِكَ al-Kitab, this is the book. La. Again, another very small, unimposing word, but a very important word. In fact, it changes the meaning of the sentence by 180 degrees. Not. Right? It just like in English. Not is a negation. It completely changes the meaning. If you miss the la, then you change the meaning of the sentence. Okay? So far we have that, the book, not. Raiba is a unique word in that it doesn't come very often. Al-Kitab will come so often, you should know it by the first month. You should have already seen this word multiple times. Same with dhalika, same with la. Raiba, you won't see probably again for a long time. So raiba is doubt. The kind of negative aspect of that is that you have to memorize it right now. Raiba. Okay? It's actually without the context of the sentence, it'll just be raibun. Like every word, without the context of the sentence, you just put a tanween dhamma at the end. Okay? And this notion of dhamma, fatha, kasra, I know it's very fuzzy and hazy right now. No analogy in English. There's nothing like it in English. Okay? Fatha, dhamma, kasra and all that. But just as one heads up, whenever you write a word or you see it on a test or something, it's probably going to be like this, raibun. If it's not with anything. Same thing here, kitabun. Something like that. Okay? So raib is doubt. Fihi is a contraction of two words or a combination of two words. Fi, which you probably are, if you read the Quran often, you would know that fi is a word also. And this word, he, is connected not only to fi in the Quran, it's connected to many words. So from that you can kind of tell that there are two different words. There's ilayhi, there's minhu, which is not he but it's hu, which means the same thing. So hu and he at the end of a word mean the same thing. It's the same word. So there's ilayhi, there's minhu, there's kitabuhu, there's khitamuhu, there's bunch of words that have hu attached to them, and there are many different things. Fi is also attached to more than just he. It could also be attached to him. Fi him, alayhim, alayka. So you can see that these two are two different words here. So fi is in, and he is it or him. It or him. So what does this mean, it or him? Do we know what it means in the sentence? Yes, we actually do know which one it means in the sentence. It's because of the context. The funny thing is this, if you just learn this normally in isolation, people would say it means him, as in referring to a male person. But every single word in Arabic has a gender, almost. Okay? This word doesn't have a gender. But every word other than that we've discussed so far has a gender. So these two right here don't have a gender. Okay? And we'll talk about these words in today's grammar lesson, which words don't have a gender. But every other word that we've talked about, dhalika, kitab, raib, they all have a gender. So if you want to refer back with a pronoun, if you're familiar with the concept of pronoun in English, you know him is a type of pronoun. Pronouns like him, her, it, we, they, they're all referring back to some noun. All of them have to have a gender associated with it. So that's why, even though there's no person in the sentence yet, right? We start basically the surah, alif lam mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. There's no person. But we use the masculine form of a pronoun, which in most contexts means him, but it means it here. Why? Because referring back to a word that's male, masculine. Is that a clear concept? So, al-kitab is masculine. Its gender is male, pretty much. If you want to say the book has no doubt in it, it is referring to the book, right? When I ask you what does it refer to, it refers to the book. No doubt, it doesn't refer to doubt, raib. It refers back to book. La raiba fihi, no doubt in it. So the book is masculine. If this was feminine, then it doesn't really matter what the meaning of the word is. Words are masculine, feminine, almost at random. Just something to memorize along with the meaning, basically. But if it was a feminine word like shajara, tree, it would be fiha. You would have to change the gender of this pronoun. Change the gender of this pronoun. So this is a masculine pronoun. It doesn't matter whether it's referring to a person. It doesn't matter whether it's referring to a thing. That's why you have to kind of be sloppy and write him/it. But in the context of an ayah, you would know whether it's it or him. In this case, it's it. Huda means guidance. Another word that perhaps many people are familiar with, because it comes in like Islamic studies a lot. Guidance. Lil muttaqeen is a combination of two words again. Almost a combination of three words. And here I'll explain what I mean. Muttaqeen, perhaps you also know what this means. It comes from taqwa. Taqwa. Muttaqeen is ones who have taqwa. Ones who are conscious, ones who have taqwa. So this is muttaqeen. However, there are more things than just muttaqeen here. There's lil muttaqeen. There's also alif lam. Okay? Alif lam. The alif lam is not a separate word. We don't consider it a separate word. In English, the is a separate word. Over there was alif lam too, al-kitab. That was a separate word in English. In Arabic, it's connected. And it's not like this connected, where there's still two separate words. I would tell you, yeah, this is separate, this is separate. It's just attached. Al is just a qualifier of any kind of noun, basically. Okay, so you don't count it as a separate word, but it does mean the. It has the meaning of the. So there's alif lam in here also. Even though you don't see the alif, it's there. There's also li. So it's a combination really of li and al-muttaqeen. Li is a word just like fi. It can be combined with who. It can be combined with other nouns. Here you can see it's combined with a noun instead of combined with a pronoun. You could have said fil muttaqeen if you were talking about something else, right? In the people who have taqwa, in the ones who have taqwa. So let me write this: ones who are conscious. So you have here in this case this small word meaning two. This means two or four, depending on the context again. In this place it's four, so I'll just write four. Four, but similarly this word can be before muttaqeen also. Okay, fil muttaqeen, lil muttaqeen. Since this word is so short, it almost always combines with the word coming after it, and you'll never see it by itself. Li, that is okay. Fi you will see by itself, even if there's words after it. Okay, so again, dhalika is that, and I said every single word has a gender. Well, what's the gender of this? Male. Okay, every single word so far has a gender except the words that I outlined. La, fi, and li. This word doesn't have a gender either. Okay, huda. What would be the gender of huda? Probably it's masculine. Okay, and muttaqeen is masculine also. Al-muttaqeen. So far we have that. Al-kitab is book. Kitab. La is not. Raiba, doubt. Raibun, raib, doubt. Fihi, in it. Huda, guidance. Lil muttaqeen, for the ones who are conscious. So far we don't have a sentence, right? If you just translate it like this, it's not a complete thought. But it is. In Arabic it's a complete sentence. So what are we missing here? We're missing something in English called a linking verb. Things like is, was. They're very small verbs that you need to attach to an English sentence. In an English sentence, every sentence has to have a verb. Okay? If you think about it, every sentence has a verb. The sky is bright. Is the verb. I am happy. Am is the verb. I do. Do is the verb. In Arabic, it's not the same way. There's some sentences with only nouns. In fact, this sentence has no verb in it. Okay? So when you translate it into English, there's obviously a discrepancy. In Arabic, you can have sentences which are only nouns. They're all nouns, straight through. No verb at all. In English, you have to have a verb. So you have to add a verb somewhere where it makes sense. So in this case, you add it here. It's an extra thing that you just have to do when you translate full sentences. Okay? That is the book. And then again you have to say, there is no doubt in it. Guidance for the believers. Here it's kind of a add-on phrase. How do you know where to add these little extra words, that translation? It comes with pretty much practice, and it comes a lot with grammar. Has a lot to do with grammar, where you will add this. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ can also mean that book. For example, that book is over there, versus that is the book. Okay, so how do you differentiate that when you translate? It has to do with grammar. Okay? So, we'll go to the next ayah. الَّذِينَ. الَّذِينَ is male, first of all, and it means those who. Those who. يُؤْمِنُونَ, our first verb. They believe. Masculine. بِالْغَيْبَ, just like لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, another example of two words combined together. Here you can still see the alif lam of the ghaib, right? Al-ghaib is the unseen. The unseen. B is with. So we have another example where the small word is attached to the word coming next to it. Just like the word li. What does li mean again? From the last, hudal lil muttaqin. For. Okay? Guidance for the believers. Just like that, we have be here. With. So this is, you'll never see again. You'll never see this by itself. Just be standing there with the kasra. All alone. You'll see it combined with, connected to the next word. Okay? It's too short. It's one letter long. There's never, pretty much there's no word that's one letter long that stands by itself in Arabic. Even this word right here, wa. It looks like it's by itself, but it's attached to the next word. Okay? So bil ghaibi, with the unseen, wa yuqimun, and where did I get the and from? This word right here, wa. Another small letter which has no gender. A small one-letter word which has no gender. Yuqimun, they establish. As-salah, the salah. We'll just leave it at that for right now. The salah. And if you notice at a first approximation, right? Just looking at it, simply speaking, you look over there, you see yu'minun. You look over here, you see yuqimun. They have some kind of rhyme to them. Yu'minun, yuqimun. Does everyone notice that, or am I the only one who notices that? Yu'minuna, yuqimuna. They both begin with ya. They both end with waw nun. And they both translate to they. They. And they both translate to the masculine form of they. So it's not a coincidence that they are that way. Okay? So there's so many patterns in the Arabic language, way more than the English language. It's up to us to pick up on those patterns. And oftentimes before we even get to a lesson in the grammar book, you'll pick up on the pattern, because grammar is nothing more than patterns. That's all what grammar is. So yuqimun, they establish. Both are they. Yu'minun, yuqimun. One is believe. And you would kind of guess then that the rest of the letters, other than the ya and the waw nun, would signify believe. Here the qayama signifies establish. And again we'll discuss that. But it's a pattern that you can pick up by yourself almost, if you read Quran enough. Okay, yuqimuna as-salah. Wa min, another combination of two words. Min. Min and ma. Min means from. Ma is what? Neither of these words has a gender. Okay, and again, the pattern is if you have a very small word, usually it doesn't have a gender. If you have a bigger word, it usually has a gender. رَزَقْنَاهُمْ, another verb, this time in the past. This was they believe and they establish right now. This is رَزَقْنَاهُمْ in the past. We provided them. Whom? Like I mentioned earlier, just like he was attached to fihi, whom is attached to razaqna. It's an attached pronoun. It refers to them. Right here. Okay? Them. Yunfiqun. Again, another word that looks kind of like this. Yu'minun, yuqimun, yunfiqun. All three of these have patterns. So what's the meaning of that? At least the first word. They. And is it masculine or feminine? Masculine. Okay? So see, you're already learning Arabic. They. Spend. Okay? So you guys are already able to pick up on these patterns. The harder part now is to learn the words that are not based on patterns, which is the amana of yu'minun, which is the qayama of yuqimun, and the nafaqa of yunfiqun. And they are based on patterns too, but for right now we just have to learn them because we don't know any other words with that pattern. Okay? So yu'minun is, how about some similar words? For these some of the harder words, I want to give some similar words. Okay? Ghaib might also be hard, the unseen. Who heard of Al-Ghaib before? Okay, so about half maybe, okay? Or more than half. Al-Ghaib is the unseen. If you never heard of that word before, you might think it was difficult, but it's a rare word, so it's okay that it's difficult. Yu'minun, the amana of yu'minun is not rare, so it's not okay if you don't know that, okay? So, similar words, that if you hear them, they sound similar. Mu'min, mu'min, yu'minun, mu'min, means one who believes. Iman, mu'min, yu'minun, iman, faith. They all mean the same, contextually the same. Yuqimun, qiyama, aqim, qawm. Okay, all similar meanings. And yunfiqun, does it have munafiq? I guess you can say that also has a similar meaning. And nafiq, there's a bunch of words. Some of them you've heard before, some of them you haven't. For yu'minun, you've heard mu'min, you've heard iman. So yu'minun, if you're stuck after they, okay, I know it's they, but what is after that? Immediately you think of mu'minun, iman, which have to do with belief, so you say they believe, masculine. That's it, you know the word. Alladhina, those who, yu'minuna, they believe. And while we don't emphasize context and tafsir and all that in this class, always look at the ayah before. If you're stuck, to translate the ayah after. It's very simple. You'll know, if you don't remember what alladhina is right away, you know it refers to the last ayah. So you can think, okay, maybe it clicks something, you think those who. So you have yunfiqun. Second to last ayah, don't worry. We're almost done with the vocabulary. وَالَّذِينَ. We just had alladhina on the last part. I told you what wa is already. So what is وَالَّذِينَ? And those who. Okay? Very good. Is it masculine or feminine? Masculine. Because I told you, right? There's no reason. وَالَّذِينَ. We already had this word. This word? Okay. Bi and ma. We had both of these words too already. So if you think back, we had alladhina bil ghaibi. Sorry, yeah, very good. Bil ghaibi, with the unseen. What is this? This is bi is then what? In or with. More few I would count as in, and be I would count with. Now the confusing thing is that when you say believe in English, do you say they believe with Allah or they believe in Allah? They believe in Allah. Okay, so the contextual difference does support in, but be in itself, purely by itself, is with. Okay, so that's just why I translated that way. But again, if you're doing the English translation, you have to be aware of English cues. So B is with, ma is in. So, or sorry, what? We had mimma in the last slide, right? Mimma, from what? Here it's bima, with what? So they believe with what? Unzila. Unzila. Let me tell you some words that might sound similar. Nazil. Nazil. Okay? Reveal. To reveal something. It was revealed. So how did I know it was it? We didn't learn that yet. How do I know that it was? We didn't learn that yet. But there's something in that word that tells you it was revealed. Other than the nazala. The nazala is common to many words, and you might think that's what makes it mean reveal. The reveal part is the nazala. Now all the rest of that stuff that's going on, is it unzila, is it anzala, is it all that? That conveys the rest of the meaning of the word. Okay? For right now, we just have to memorize it. It was revealed. Ilayka, again another combination. You probably heard ilayhim, or you've read it. Ilayhim, ilaykum, ilayka. Ila, what is ila? To. Okay. To, and ka is you, another pronoun that's attached. Okay? And this is masculine. Ila, the ilay part, which is really ila, doesn't have a gender again. Okay, just like bima, no gender there. So this is, but the you part does have a gender. Who is this referring to? Go, like zoom back out for 1 second. What is this ayah saying? It helps you remember the words in the ayah. Yeah. So it's saying walladhi, those who believe in what was sent ilayka. What does that mean? Exactly, to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so again, zoom out a little bit. If you're getting too tripped up in the word by word, and you're like, oh, I'm just memorizing. Zoom back out. There is a context to every sentence, even if that context is just the sentence itself. So what is the sentence telling you? Those who believe in what was revealed to you. Wama unzila, and what unzila, it was revealed min. We had min before from the mimma. So it is min. From. Qabl is before. Ka, we just had ka. What is ka? You. So you see, just because it's attached to another word, don't get confused. It's not qablika is not one word. You see the ka here. It's again just pattern recognition. You see ka attached to a bunch of things. Hum is attached to a bunch of things. He is attached to a bunch of things. When you see that they're attached to different words, then you kind of just, as a normal human, sometimes you can discover that those are two separate words that can be mixed and mashed around. Qablika, sorry, not believe. Before you, it's masculine. Wa bi, again we have bi. Bi, okay, and with. Al-akhirah, akhir, hereafter. Okay. How did you know that? How did you know hereafter? How would somebody know that this is akhir? Well, which means last. Okay, so again, related to other words, if at all possible. Hum. Did we have this? Yeah, I think we already had this. They, very good. They. And then ya waw noon. Pattern. Ya waw noon. What is that? Yu'minun, yuqinun, yuqimun. They, masculine. And then, okay, they, masculine. And then, I'm not even going to tell you what this means. But I'm going to tell you this waqana many times comes as yaqana. And sometimes that comes as yaqeen. Yaqeen. So now do you know that the meaning of yuqinun? They, more than believe, yu'minun would be belief, but they have certainty. See, you already know that. I don't have to tell you, yuqinun means they have certainty. Right? It's a verb, it means they have to have certainty. So they have certainty. So just by studying one ayah, you translated the next ayah, 50% of the next ayah. And your background knowledge in Arabic, basically. Okay, just by pattern recognition. We didn't study any grammar rules so far. Nothing. Our first grammar lesson is after our vocabulary lesson. But just by pattern recognition, you can pick up alladhina, alladhina. Alladhina usually starts at the beginning or end of a sentence. Beginning. So again, another pattern. There are not that many things that can start the beginning of many different sentences. So it's those who. You say something, 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 and those who, something, something, and those who. So that's one of the ways that you can start a sentence. Yu'minun, yuqinun, yuqimun. All of them, the ya, wa, nun. You know, once you know one of them is they, you know that all of them is they. Ka. You see these things, these little words that are attached to other words. Qabl, ilay, bi, li. All of them, again, pattern recognition. Once you see, even if you don't know what it means immediately, you know that they're independent words. Another person, before they ever studied Arabic, maybe some of you before you came here, you would look at qablika, you would look at ilayka, you would look at razaqnahum, you would say they have nothing in common. They're just 4 different words to me. But they're not. They all have some piece in common. That's actually a whole word. Many people don't recognize where one word starts and another word ends. But now, with just a little bit of pattern recognition, you can figure that out. Okay? And the last ayah, ulaika. So, this is not those who, but this is just those. Okay? Those. It's not like a relative pronoun. We'll talk about that. But ulaika, those, as in those people, ala, on. Did we have alayhim just now? Yeah. That was on them. This is just on, without the him. On. Huda. We had huda just now. Guidance. 2 hours ago. Guidance. Min. From. We had mimma already. From what? Mimma razaqnahum yunfiqun. From what we. What is razaqna again? Razaqna. From what we blank them they spend. From what we provided them they spend. Rabbihim. What's Rabb? Lord. Okay, and what is him? They. Okay, so their Lord. I'll tell you why I changed it from they to there later, but you almost pretty much knew the meaning already. Okay. Ulaika wa ulaika, and those. Are. Oh shoot, let's not add the R. Whom, again, whom and him are the same. What is him? Whom? They. Al-muflihun. What is al? The. Al signifies the. Just like the ya, wa, noon. Ya, wa, noon is not separate from the word. Yu'minun, the ya and the wa, noon are not a different word. That means they. Just like that, alif lam is not a different word. That means the. But it signifies the. Okay? Al-muflihun. Ones who are successful. Okay? And with that, we're done with 5 ayahs already. A few things though I want to go back and look big picture. I was talking about patterns. There's one very intricate, easy to miss pattern that I didn't talk about. I didn't pick up. Or I didn't mention. It has to do with a lot of the endings of these ayahs. Al-muflihun. Not this ayah. Not this ayah either. So it's not that common in this word, but here you have muttaqeen. It's a very subtle pattern because it only came twice. What's the definition of muttaqeen? Ones who have taqwa. What's the definition of muflihun? Ones who are successful. They both began with ones who are. Very subtle pattern because it appeared only twice in opposite ayahs. One in the beginning, one in the end. And again, all of these patterns, don't worry about knowing them right now. if after I tell you, you recognize them, that's all that I need to know. Because every single one of these, all these are what rules? They're part of the study of what? Grammar. Okay? The grammar. So we have hundreds of grammar lessons to cover. And all of this will be discussed. But just knowing that it's a pattern beforehand, you prime your mind to look for them in text. So you repeat constantly. You don't just learn it when the lesson comes. You learn it multiple times as you read Quran every day. Okay? Another thing, I told you that you have to add certain words during the translation into English. Commonly, what is that? Is, was, are, those kind of words. Okay? So let's, for example, translate this. Can anybody give me a comprehensible English sentence from these words? Alright, fine, I'll do it if nobody's volunteering. Those are on guidance from their Lord, and they are the ones who are successful. Okay, it's still a little bit. I added two words. I added are in the beginning. I added are after whom? They. Okay, it still doesn't really fit the English diction. Doesn't satisfy the requirements for how English sentences are constructed. But it does make sense now. Okay, and that's the critical ingredient of why you can't read translation and understand the Arabic. It's just impossible. Because and hopefully from this first lesson we get a slight appreciation of why that's true. I mean, I've heard it multiple times, but I think this is perhaps the first time I understood why it was true. Just going word to word and trying to make a sentence is impossible, basically. So you can kind of hopefully taste that there's something not there in the English. In the English, that's a completely broken sentence. In Arabic, it's a perfect sentence. Okay? So that's the second thing. We have to add words when we translate it into English sometimes. The third thing is sometimes we subtract words. This ayah also illustrates that point. When you see this translation of this ayah, this word is never translated. Hum is never translated. Why? Because this already has kind of that meaning, right? And in English, you don't put two words with the same meaning right after each other. In Arabic, you do it all the time. You would never have guessed that from the English translation, that there was an extra word that also means something similar to those. It means they. And they were right one after another. Why is that? Well, it's for emphasis. But in the English, you won't have emphasis unless it's inna, which means indeed. You can see verily and indeed all over the place, but you don't see emphasis when you have hum, when you have a repeated word. Okay? So sometimes you subtract letters or words, sometimes you add words when you have to translate. So that's kind of the way that the translation gets a little bit skewed off the meaning. Okay, so it's patterns, adding and subtracting words, etc. Okay, and you can do that as an exercise for all these sentences pretty much. Try to make them from word to word into sentences, so you can appreciate how the words connect together. Okay? Subhanakallahumma bihamdik nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.